Noah Lyles, Olympic champion, the loudest voice in track and field. He just said something that no athlete has been brave enough to say out loud. Track and field does not have real rivalries. Noah Lyles is the reigning Olympic 100-meter champion. He has won the world title in the 200 meters 4 consecutive times. He is 28 years old and has been the biggest name in global sprinting for years. When he speaks about track and field, the sport listens. So when Lyles sat down with Olympics.com and said that track and field was missing something big, people paid attention. His exact words were direct and sharp. He said, "I think that if a rivalry is cared for in the correct manner, then yes, it can be good. But calling every competition of an athlete going up against another athlete a rivalry is not the same. There has to be a story. There has to be a purpose. There has to be intent." He did not stop there. He added, "Just the fact that they happen to show up at the same track meet is not a rivalry. That is not a throwaway comment. That is a full diagnosis of why track and field struggles to hold the attention of casual fans, even when the fastest people alive are competing." Lyles named the problem. But to understand why he is right, you have to understand what a real rivalry actually looks like. Sports rivalries are not accidents. They are built. They need 3 things to feel real to a fan. They need a story, a reason why these two athletes matter against each other. They need a purpose, something bigger than just winning one race. And they need intent, meaning both sides are actively engaged in the conflict, not just aware of each other. Think about what makes fans lose their minds over a rivalry in any sport. It is never just skill. It is the meaning underneath the skill. When two athletes have history, when they have said things about each other, when the whole sport knows there is something at stake beyond the scoreboard, fans stop scrolling and start watching. Lyles understands this better than almost any athlete alive. His point is simple. 2 fast people running in the same lane is not a rivalry. It is just a race. He put it plainly, when somebody has a dog in the fight, they're more entertained and more willing to participate. When you have no reason to cheer, you have no reason to care. That line is the whole argument in one sentence. Fan investment does not come from watching 2 great athletes. It comes from caring about which one wins and why. Lyles himself pointed to the one rivalry in recent track history that came closest to getting it right. He called it probably the biggest, most memorable rivalry the sport had seen in recent years. That was Usain Bolt against Justin Gatlin. That rivalry had everything. It had a story. Bolt was the impossible phenomenon, the man who shattered world records and turned the 100-meter final into a personal showcase. Gatlin was the comeback kid, the sprinter who had served a 4-year doping ban and returned to the sport hungry to prove he still belonged. The crowd loved Bolt and openly distrusted Gatlin. That tension was a story that wrote itself, and every race between them felt like a verdict on something larger than speed. It had purpose. Bolt wanted his legacy to be untouchable. Gatlin wanted to be the man who finally took him down. Every time they lined up together, something was genuinely on the line. It had intent. Gatlin openly declared he would beat Bolt. He reportedly spat across Bolt's lane before a race in 2011 in what some saw as a psychological move. Their coaches tracked each other. Their training camps studied each other. Neither one was pretending the other did not exist. The result was a rivalry that fans still debate today. At the 2017 World Athletics Championships in London, Gatlin, 35 years old and written off by most observers, crossed the finish line in 9.92 seconds and beat Bolt in his final individual race ever. The crowd booed. Gatlin kneeled and bowed in front of the man he had just defeated. The emotion in that moment was real because the story behind it was real. Gatlin later reflected that Bolt had made him a better athlete, and Bolt confirmed years afterward that Gatlin kept him working hard every single year. That is what a real rivalry produces. Not just drama, growth. Lyles knows this is the bar. He knows how far today's sport is from reaching it. The problem is not talent. Track and field right now has elite sprinters, world records falling, and some of the deepest fields in decades. The problem is that the sport has not built the context around those performances that makes fans care which athlete crosses first. Lyles pointed directly at this when he talked about Shaunae Miller-Weibo and Allyson Felix, 2 elite women who raced each other multiple times at the highest level. He said plainly, for a little while there was the Shaunae versus Allyson Felix rivalry. But even with those, they're not really rivalries. They just happen to show up at the same track meets at the end of the year. I don't think they got everything they could have got out of these. They could have been pushed so much more. That is the gap. Track and field has the athletes. It does not have the storytelling machinery that turns those athletes into characters with history, grievances, and personal stakes. Other sports have solved this. The decade-long Messi versus Ronaldo debate in soccer became a cultural conversation that drew in millions of people who had never watched a full match. The Bolt versus Gatlin rivalry brought casual viewers to track because they understood the story even before the gun fired. Track is not building those narratives fast enough, and as a result, even legendary performances disappear quickly from public memory. What makes Lyles unusual is that he has not just diagnosed the problem, he has spent his entire career trying to be the solution. Every entrance, every celebration, every post-race interview, Lyles treats the sport as entertainment and himself as a character within it. He does not simply win races, he performs. He explained his thinking this way: "I do it for myself. This is for me and the audience. I want everybody to have a good time. I want everybody to be excited when they come and watch me perform. When they leave, I want them to say, I would have never got that type of energy if I just watched it on TV." And in the months following his comments about rivalries, the sport has quietly started to move in the right direction. The confrontation between Lyles and Kenny Bednarek at the 2025 USA Track and Field Championships, where Bednarek shoved Lyles after the race and snapped about not receiving a phone call, had genuine heat. It had a backstory, it had the kind of charged emotion that makes people look up from their phones. His relationship with Letsile Tebogo of Botswana has also started to take on real texture. Tebogo has admitted that early in their careers, the tension between them was genuine. He has since described dropping both egos and agreeing to be rivals on the track and people who respect each other off it. Tebogo accepted Lyles' invitation to his private proposal party after the Tokyo World Championships. That off-track closeness, competing hard and then coexisting as people, is exactly the model that Bolt and Gatlin used to make their rivalry feel human rather than simply athletic. Noah Lyles looked at his own sport and said it out loud. Two athletes in the same race is not a rivalry. It is a proximity. A rivalry needs a story the fans can follow, a purpose both athletes are openly chasing, and an intent that makes every head-to-head feel like the next chapter in something bigger. Track and field has the raw material. What it needs is the commitment to build the context around it. That starts with athletes and the sport itself making deliberate choices, choosing to race each other directly instead of avoiding the matchup, choosing to speak honestly about competition rather than giving polite, careful answers in every press room, choosing to let the drama exist, even when it is uncomfortable. Rivalries do not grow in silence. They grow in the spaces where two people refuse to pretend the other one does not matter. Lyles is already doing his part. He brings the character. He invites the conflict. He has his eye on the LA 2028 Olympics in front of a home crowd, a prospect he has said gives him goosebumps as the stage where track finally delivers the kind of rivalry that fans carry with them for decades. The athletes are fast enough. The question now is whether the sport is finally brave enough to let them be real characters too.